There is a $12 billion industry built on your weed problem never being solved. Losing to weeds every summer is not bad luck. That is by design. The Amish cracked the code 300 years ago. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to solve your weed problem for good, and I am saving the best technique for last. Stay with me. Let me tell you something about the herbicide industry that the label on the bottle will never say. The global herbicide market is worth more than $34 billion and grows at about 5% every single year. That kind of growth does not happen by accident. It happens because the product was never designed to solve your problem. It was designed to manage it just enough that you come back next season and buy more. A product that eliminated the need for itself would be a terrible business. That is not a conspiracy, that is just economics. Walk into any hardware store in April and count the shelf space devoted to weed killers. Then count the shelf space devoted to teaching you how to not need them. That ratio tells you everything about where the money is. After World War II, chemical companies had factories full of synthetic compounds built for warfare. They needed new markets. Agriculture was the answer. The pesticide treadmill, the herbicide cycle, the idea that your soil is a problem requiring a chemical solution, all of it traces back to that same post-war pivot. They did not create these products because gardeners needed them. They created a need so gardeners would buy them. The Amish watched the whole thing happen and kept doing what they had always done, and their gardens kept getting cleaner. Here is the part that changes everything, and it is the part the industry is perfectly happy for you to never learn. Researchers at Michigan State University found that a single square foot of garden soil holds up to 15,000 viable weed seeds. Some of those seeds have been down there for 20 years. Velvet leaf seeds have been documented germinating after decades underground. You might be fighting weeds right now that were planted in your soil before you even moved in, and one lamb's quarters plant, one of the most common garden weeds in America, produces 72,000 seeds in a single season. One plant. Those seeds need two things to wake up: moisture and light. They can sense a brief flash of sunlight. And what gives them that flash? Tilling. Turning the soil. Every time you rototill in spring, you are reaching into the soil, pulling those seeds up to the surface and saying, "Good morning. Time to grow." I did this for 25 years. Every April I churned those beds until they looked like a magazine cover. 2 weeks later, a carpet of weeds every single year. I thought it was just how gardening worked. It never once occurred to me that I was causing it, that the act of making the soil look clean was the very thing making it filthy. The man who finally explained this to me was named Eli. He farms about 40 acres outside of Intercourse, Pennsylvania. He is in his 60s. He has the kind of hands that look like they were carved from the same material as the soil he works. And when I asked him how he kept his bed so clean without any products, he looked at me the way a carpenter looks at someone who has been hammering with the handle. He said, "We do not fight the weeds, we just do not give them a reason to show up." That sentence sat in my brain for weeks because it is not just a gardening philosophy. It is a completely different operating system, and once you understand it, you cannot ununderstand it. So let me walk you through exactly how they do it. Technique 1, stop tilling, start layering. The first move is the hardest because it means letting go of something that feels productive. Stop tilling every spring. If your soil is established, you do not need to turn it over again. Instead, spread 2 to 3 inches of well-aged compost across your beds and let the worms work it in. The Amish call this building the soil. They have been doing it on the same plots for 300 years. Every inch of compost you add is another inch of darkness between the seed bank and the sun. In cooler zones 3 through 5, get it down 3 to 4 weeks before your last frost. In warmer zones 7 through 9, start in late winter. This is not just a soil health practice. This is weed control. The Amish do not have a soil program and a weed program. They have one program. The weed suppression is built right into the soil building. Now here is the technique that made me sit staring at a research paper, thinking, how is this not on the front page of every gardening magazine in the country? Because what I am about to describe is a living plant that manufactures its own chemical weed killer, and it has been growing in Amish fields every winter for generations. Technique 2. The plant that does chemistry while you sleep. When Amish families finish their summer harvest, they do not leave beds bare through winter. They plant cereal rye, and here is why that matters in a way that should stop you in your tracks. Cereal rye produces chemical compounds called benzoxazinones. These compounds are released from the roots while the plant is alive and from the decaying residue after it is cut. They suppress the germination and growth of nearby plants, including weeds. This is not something you buy. This is a living plant running its own herbicide program 24 hours a day in the dark while you are inside. Research published in Frontiers in Plant Science, confirmed by work at Cornell and Penn State, found that cereal rye residue can suppress weed growth by up to 95% for 30 to 60 days after termination. The weeds it hits hardest are pigweed, lamb's quarters, purslane, and crabgrass. These are the exact ones that drive most gardeners to the edge of sanity. Here's how to use it. In late summer or early fall, broadcast cereal rye at 2 to 3 pounds per 100 square feet. Rake lightly, water once, walk away. In spring, 3 to 4 weeks before planting, cut it at ground level and leave the mat on the bed. Do not till it in. Transplant directly through it by cutting small openings where each plant goes. The rye does the rest. After 3 years of doing this consistently, Amish gardeners say weeding drops from a major weekly chore to an occasional 5-minute task. After 5 years, many say they barely weed at all. 5 years to essentially solve a problem that most gardeners fight for their entire lives. Technique 3, the trap. This one sounds almost too clever. Eli called it letting the weeds come first. Prepare your bed as if you are about to plant. Rake it smooth, water it well, then do absolutely nothing. Walk away for 10 days. Thousands of weed seeds near the surface will germinate. They see the light, sense the moisture, and think it is go time. Then you come back with the hoe and scrape the top half-inch of soil, barely scratching the surface, and wipe out that entire generation in 5 minutes before they set a single seed. A single pigweed produces 100,000 seeds. Every weed you kill before it seeds is tens of thousands of future weeds that will never exist. The math is staggering. Do this twice 10 days apart before planting. You reduce weed emergence in that bed by 50 to 70% for the rest of the season. It pushes planting back 2 to 3 weeks. The time you save on weeding all summer covers it 10 times over. Technique 4, never leave bare soil. Weeds are not a flaw in nature. They are nature doing exactly what it was designed to do. Cover exposed soil. If you leave bare ground, nature will fill it with whatever seeds are available. In most gardens, the seeds available are weed seeds. Amish gardens are packed. No bare ground between rows. Every inch is either a crop, a companion plant, or a living mulch. Between tall crops like tomatoes and corn, they plant low-growing white Dutch clover. It stays under 6 inches. It fixes nitrogen into the soil, feeding the crops around it for free. It creates a physical carpet that blocks weed seedlings from establishing. When it flowers, it attracts pollinators that improve your fruit set. Research from multiple extension services has confirmed that low-growing clovers used as living mulch reduce weed pressure significantly while having minimal impact on crop yields. Free fertilizer and free weed suppression in one plant. You plant it once, it reseeds itself, it works indefinitely. And now here's the one I promised you at the very beginning, the one that costs nothing, the one that made me feel genuinely foolish, and the one that ties everything else in the system together. Before transplanting a single seedling in spring, Eli lays flattened cardboard boxes directly on the surface of his beds and pathways, plain brown corrugated, the same boxes your online orders come in. He overlaps the edges by 3 to 4 inches so there are no gaps. Then he covers the cardboard with 3 to 4 inches of organic mulch, straw, wood chips, shredded leaves, whatever is on hand. That is the entire technique. Cardboard is completely opaque. It blocks 100% of sunlight from reaching the soil. Every one of those 15,000 seeds per square foot we talked about at the beginning is still down there, but with cardboard between them and the sun, they are dormant, harmless. You did not poison them. You did not spend $1. You simply turned off their switch. Unlike plastic landscape fabric, which creates a dead zone of compacted soil, eventually lets weeds root on top of it anyway, and then has to be ripped out and replaced, cardboard is biodegradable. It breaks down in 4 to 6 months. As it decomposes, it feeds the earthworm population beneath it. Pull back a piece that has been sitting on damp soil for a few weeks, and you will find it crawling with worms. Those worms aerate your soil, pull organic matter deeper, and leave behind castings that are among the richest natural fertilizers on Earth. The cardboard suppresses weeds, builds soil, feeds worms, retains moisture, and disappears exactly when it is no longer needed. Cost zero. For pathways, use 2 layers topped with wood chips. You will not pull a single weed from those paths all season. For planting beds, lay the cardboard down and cut openings where each transplant goes. Your crops grow through, everything else stays smothered underneath. I added up what I spent on weed control over 10 years. Landscape fabric, pre-emergent herbicides, weed barrier mats, replacement rolls when the fabric tore. It came to just over $400. Eli spent $0, and his garden had fewer weeds than mine. The expensive product is inferior to the free one. The answer was sitting in his barn the whole time, folded flat, waiting to be used. Here is what I actually believe after standing in those Amish gardens and spending years testing what they do. The modern gardening industry did not fail you by accident. It sold you a relationship with your garden built on dependency. Buy this, spray that, replace it when it stops working, buy it again, and most of it does not even work as well as a piece of cardboard and some straw. The Amish did not reject modern weed control because they are old-fashioned. They rejected it because they understood something most of us still have not been told. Healthy soil does not grow weeds the way sick soil does. Build the biology, close the canopy, stop churning the seed bank, and the weed problem quietly solves itself from the inside out. So here's what I want you to do this season. Stop tilling, layer compost instead. Plant cereal rye this fall. Use the stale seedbed trick before you plant in spring. Grow clover between your rows and grab a few delivery boxes from the garage, flatten them out, wet them down, throw some straw on top, and wait. When you walk out on a July morning and your paths are clean and your beds are mulched and the only green between your plants is the clover you put there on purpose, you will know exactly what Eli meant when he said, "We just do not give them a reason to show up." If this changed how you think about weeds, drop a comment and tell me what you are going to try first. I read every single one. If you want more of these deep dives into traditional growing wisdom that nobody is selling, subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.